now talks about toxic masculinity as if it's an overdose of masculinity. But the reality of it, what they term toxic masculinity, is actually deficient masculinity. It's a loss of virtue. It's a loss of chivalry. It's a loss of the true male nature, which is to defend what's right, to honor women, to defend children, to defend the hearth and home. These are really important qualities. In our tradition, our Prophet ﷺ was a statesman. He was a prophet. He was a statesman. He was a general. He was a father, a benefactor. He was the greatest philanthropist. He fed over 400,000 homeless people in his life. I did an estimate of how many meals he did based on the average feeding 70 people twice a day. He fed over 400,000 people. That's a sunnah of our Prophet, taking care of homeless people, taking care of the downtrodden. Our Prophet ﷺ was also a martial artist, and his art was grappling. All of the Quraysh, which is the tribe he came from, were known for grappling and for sprinting and for archery and for horseback riding. In fact, Ibn Abbas said none of the other Arabs could defeat the Quraysh in grappling. He said, "Lam yusari'hum ahadun illa sar'ahu." Nobody wrestled with a Qurayshi except he defeated them. The Prophet Muhammad met the greatest wrestler of the Quraysh, and he was considered the greatest wrestler on the Arabian Peninsula. His name was Rukana ibn Yazid. And the Prophet ﷺ said to him, "Do you want to wrestle with me to see who's stronger, Allah or Lat and Uzza?" And so he said, "Sari'ni." The Prophet ﷺ threw him, sara'ahu. And then he said, he immediately jumped up and he said, "Ud ya Muhammad," do that again. Now, people that study martial arts will know that he wanted to learn the technique, because that was the first time he'd ever been thrown. Imam Asyuti wrote a very interesting book called Al-Musara'a ila al-Musara'a, hastening to grappling, or hastening to wrestling. And he talks about the importance of learning how to wrestle, and this is something all of the Muslims did in Mecca and Medina. They learned how to defend themselves, and not just the men, but also the women. And we have great warrior women: Nusayba bint Ka'b, Safiya bint Abd al-Muttalib, the aunt of the Prophet ﷺ. We have Nusayba also, Khawla bint al-Azwar, great warrior. In fact, she would wear a veil, a turban with a veil, and they thought that she was a man fighting. Even Khalid bin Walid initially thought it was a man fighting with them. Safiya, when she saw that the archers, Nusayba, when she saw that the archers had fled the battlefield, immediately went to the Prophet ﷺ. She was taking care, she was nursing the wounded. She went to the Prophet ﷺ and she said, she began to defend him. She was wounded 13 times in that defense. So people can encourage a kind of effeminate nature, but in the end, this will backfire on any people, because the world is always going to have its problems. And so self-defense is a very important quality that we have to inculcate in young